South Africa has been shaken to its very core by a revelation that threatens to redefine its political landscape. General Nathi, a figure known for his unwavering pursuit of justice, stepped forward with a bombshell disclosure regarding the mysterious death of former Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa, who was found dead just weeks ago in a luxury Paris hotel. What began as whispers of foul play has now exploded into a full-blown national scandal, igniting speculation, fear, and outrage across the country. For weeks, questions surrounded Da's sudden demise. Initial reports hinted at a medical emergency, but inconsistencies quickly surfaced. Security footage went missing under suspicious circumstances. Hotel staff who initially spoke to the press rapidly retracted their statements, and Paris authorities remained tight-lipped. Behind the scenes, General Nathi had been quietly conducting a parallel investigation. Sources close to him described sleepless nights, clandestine briefings, and continuous interference from unnamed political figures seeking to derail his work. His determination to uncover the truth never wavered even as pressure mounted from powerful quarters intent on keeping secrets buried. Then late last night, Nathi summoned journalists to a secure government facility in Pretoria. The atmosphere was tense as cameras flashed and recorders clicked, the weight of anticipation palpable in the room. "We have identified the individuals responsible for the death of Nathi Mthethwa," Nathi began, his voice steady, precise, and unyielding. "The evidence we've gathered connects them to political and financial power structures that have existed in the shadows of this nation for far too long. What we have uncovered goes far beyond the death of one man." Pausing to look directly into the cameras, he added, "South Africans deserve the truth, even if it shakes this country to its foundations." The press conference lasted nearly 2 hours, but its revelation sent shock waves that were felt not only in South Africa, but internationally. Nathi confirmed that 2 South African operatives traveling under diplomatic passports was seen entering this Paris hotel suite shortly before midnight on the night of his death. Just 14 minutes later, both men exited through a restricted service corridor. Hotel logs recorded no trace of their presence, and according to sources, Paris police were allegedly instructed by unnamed South African officials to remain away from the investigation. Within minutes of the announcement, panic reportedly spread through the highest ranks of the African National Congress. At Lachelai House, the ANC's headquarters in Johannesburg, senior party members were said to be locked in emergency meetings. One insider described the atmosphere as utter chaos. President Ramaphosa reportedly paced the corridors since the news broke, with panic and uncertainty rippling through the leadership. Staff at union buildings indicated that presidential security protocols were suddenly heightened. Communications teams were ordered to monitor all media activity, and an official response was prepared. Even more concerning were reports that several ANC veterans, including individuals who had worked closely with DU, had gone into hiding or suspended public appearances in the wake of Nathi's revelations. In the most damning section of his statement, Nathi disclosed that investigators had traced multiple electronic transfers between a Stadel business account in Johannesburg and a foreign account in Luxembourg. These funds, moved just 2 days prior to Der's death, were reportedly used to finance the trip of one of the alleged operatives. Each transaction was labeled under a cultural cooperation expenses, a detail that suggested deliberate concealment. Furthermore, the investigative team recovered deleted CCTV data from the Paris hotel's backup servers, including a critical 37-second clip allegedly showing one of the suspects placing a small vial into Mthethwa's drink moments before leaving the room. "We have the footage and we have witnesses," Nathi declared. "They tried to erase the evidence, but they failed." The weight of his words resonated across the room, a chilling confirmation of a crime that many had feared but could not prove. An ANC spokesperson quickly dismissed the allegations as baseless, reckless, and politically motivated, accusing Nathi of fueling division and conspiracy. Yet behind closed doors, even some loyalists reportedly expressed fear and confusion. "This is not a rumor anymore," one senior member said privately. "Nathi has proof. The party is panicking because everyone knows who was close to Der, and what he might have known." Analysts have suggested that Zhu was preparing to release highly sensitive documents involving state tenders, secret construction contracts, and political payoffs. Information that could implicate high-ranking government figures. If true, it could explain why his death was not random, but a calculated effort to silence him. As news of Nandlamat's statement spread, social media erupted into a digital firestorm. Hashtags such as #JusticeFromNandlamatsi, #Nandlamatsi and #Ramaphosa in panic trended for hours as citizens demanded full accountability. Protesters began gathering outside ANC headquarters, waving banners that read, "We want the truth and no more lies." Civil rights organizations called for an independent international inquiry, while opposition parties demanded that President Ramaphosa step down pending a full investigation. Before leaving the podium, Nandlamatsi issued a chilling message that reverberated across the country. "I know the risks of what I'm doing, but I refuse to be silent." Nedum was a friend, a patriot, and a man who knew too much. "The same people who silenced him will try to silence me, but South Africa will know the truth." With that, he walked out, taking no questions and leaving reporters stunned into silence. If the evidence he presented holds up under scrutiny, experts suggest this could become the largest political scandal in South African history. Legal analysts predict mass resignations, arrests, and potential international ramifications, particularly if the French authorities reopen the case based on Nandlamat's findings. Reports indicate that the French government has requested an official briefing from South African law enforcement, while diplomatic sources suggest that Interpol may soon become involved. Meanwhile, inside South Africa, public confidence in the ANC is eroding rapidly. Opinion polls show a dramatic decline in trust, and opposition leaders have framed this as the beginning of the end for the ruling party. The revelation has in effect opened a Pandora's box that no one in power can close. Questions about accountability, integrity, and the depths of political corruption now dominate the national conversation. The timing could not be more explosive. South Africans already weary from years of corruption scandals, economic uncertainty, and political infighting are confronting the unnerving possibility that the death of a prominent figure was not an accident, but a calculated elimination. For many, the images of operatives entering their hotel suite coupled with the recovered CCTV footage and financial transactions paint a picture of a political system willing to sacrifice its own for secrecy and power. The broader implications of Nandla's disclosure extend far beyond one man's death. Analysts suggest that if further evidence emerges, the scandal could implicate a network of political and financial actors who have long operated in the shadows. The possibility of international attention and involvement only heightens the stakes, potentially affecting South Africa's diplomatic relations, investor confidence, and the overall perception of governance within the country. Within the ANC, fear and uncertainty dominate. Senior officials reportedly question who may be exposed next, while internal discussions revolve around crisis management rather than leadership. Nandlamat's announcement has in effect destabilized the party, forcing leaders to confront uncomfortable truths that many had preferred to ignore. The once stable corridors of power now echo with rumors, suspicions, and a pervasive sense of vulnerability. Public reaction has been intense. Protesters and civil society groups are demanding transparency, not just explanations. They seek a comprehensive accounting of the forces behind Dua's death and a guarantee that justice will be applied impartially. Social media platforms serve as both forum and amplifier for this growing outcry, reflecting deep frustration with entrenched political structures and the perception of impunity among elites. At the heart of this scandal lies a fundamental question. How far does the corruption go? The evidence Nandlamatsi has presented suggests it is not isolated, raising concerns about the use of state resources for illicit purposes, the manipulation of diplomatic privileges, and the potential silencing of whistleblowers or reformist officials. These revelations strike at the very foundation of democratic accountability, highlighting vulnerabilities within both domestic and international systems of oversight. For President Ramaphosa, the stakes could not be higher. The handling of this crisis will define his legacy and the ANC's political trajectory. Observers note that decisive action, including cooperation with international authorities, transparent investigations, and public accountability, may mitigate long-term damage. Failure to act decisively, however, risks further erosion of trust and the perception of complicity. Internationally, the eyes of the world are watching. Media outlets in Europe and beyond have covered Mkhwanazi's statement extensively, framing it as a dramatic revelation in a nation already struggling with political instability. Diplomatic channels are reportedly abuzz with inquiries, and global financial markets are sensitive to the unfolding situation, reflecting concerns over leadership uncertainty and potential policy instability. As the sun rises over Pretoria, the country stands at a crossroads. One question hangs heavy over every institution, office, and household. Who else will fall before the full truth emerges? The scandal has laid bare the fragility of political structures, the vulnerabilities of law enforcement, and the potential for abuse within the highest echelons of power. For ordinary South Africans, it is a moment of reckoning, an urgent reminder that vigilance, transparency, and accountability are essential to preserving democracy. General Mkhwanazi's disclosure has opened a chapter that South Africa may never forget. Whether this leads to meaningful reform, widespread justice, or deeper political turmoil remains uncertain. But one fact is undeniable. The truth has begun to surface, and those in power can no longer operate in the shadows without scrutiny. As the investigation continues, the nation watches, questions, and waits. Will the operatives implicated be brought to justice? Will hidden networks of political corruption be exposed? And most importantly, will South Africa finally confront the forces that allowed such a betrayal of trust to occur? These questions linger heavy and unresolved as the story unfolds in real time. In the end, this is not just a tale of one man's death. It is a stark illustration of how power, secrecy, and political ambition can intersect with deadly consequences. It is a warning, a call to action, and a reminder that the fight for transparency, accountability, and justice is far from over. The nation has been shaken, the political elite rattled, and the world watching. South Africa's next steps will determine whether this revelation becomes a catalyst for change or another chapter in a long history of unresolved scandal. The names of the operatives, the full financial trail, and the identities of those behind the interference are still emerging. Each day promises new developments, new shocks, and potentially new accountability measures. The nation stands poised on the edge of history. Uncertain who will be held responsible, but certain that the status quo has been irreversibly disrupted. Who else will fall before the truth finally comes to light? That is the question hanging over every citizen, every politician, and every institution in South Africa today.